everybody. You're listening to the Oneness Junkie podcast, hosted by me, Lydia Smith, a self-proclaimed Oneness Junkie. Oneness Junkie is a place to be inspired, encouraged, and supported. Learn from the individuals who are working to make the world a better place. Let's meet today's guest. Hi, everyone. It's Lydia with the Oneness Junkie podcast and YouTube channel. And today I'm excited to introduce you to our next featured guest. I'm here with Reverend Dr. Michelle Whittington. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Lydia. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you for being here. You guys, I like to start off by sharing with y'all if I know the guest or not, because we can figure out if I'm going to get to know them with you. And I actually do not know Michelle. I recently met her because she's in an organization that she's going to tell you about and a networking group of an association. And so that's how I met her. And I invited her to come on the show because you all know I like to highlight individuals who are using their time and their talents to make the world a better place. And we know from Michelle's history, she's been doing that for a long time. So we want to honor her and let everyone know what she's up to today, and how she is helping to raise the vibration of our planet. So welcome, Michelle.
Thank you. I really am happy to be here. Thank you for having me, even not knowing me.
We're about to get to know you.
Yes, we are.
So with that said, will you take a moment and share with the audience a little background, maybe help us understand what led you up to the point where you wanted to become a reverend? Okay.
Absolutely. So I have to go back to my mid-30s. And I wasn't particularly religious. I had grown up in a very traditional, fundamental religion, left that when I was old enough to date, and I didn't want to get up and go to church on Sunday morning, and my mother didn't make me. So fast forward now to 35 or so. And the only thing in my life that wasn't really working the way I wanted it to work was relationships. I'd been married twice. I had a million boyfriends, and it seemed like they all went the same way. Eventually, whether it was 2 months or 2 years, they eventually fizzled out. And I just got this hit when I actually asked the question one day when boyfriend number 1 million walked out the door. God, who I wasn't sure I believed in, God, why is this happening to me again? And God said in my head, there's a common denominator, and that's you. So I went on a journey, an emotional journey, which took me to a therapist who believed very much and said to me in our first session, you're trying to fill a hole in your life with a relationship, and you never will. I can help you with all your emotional baggage, and you have a lot. I can help you with that. And she did. She said, but you need to fill that hole that you're trying to fill with a relationship with something bigger than yourself. Oh, let's call that God. So I decided that since I was paying her a lot of money, I better listen to what she said. I went church shopping, and I knew I didn't want the old traditional religion that didn't work. So I found a church of religious science, or also known as Science of Mind. And I walked into that church and went, oh my gosh, I'm home. This resonates with me 150%. So couple that with my therapy that I was doing, I was shifting, I was changing, I was growing. Became a different woman. And at some point in my journey at church, and we do a lot of classes, and I was taking classes, and I thought, I want to teach this to other people someday. Someday. This has made such a profound difference in my life that I want to be able to teach that. So it took a couple more years before I actually did that, because the other voice said, who do you think you are? You can't do that. But ultimately I did. I got my ministerial credential and became the minister of a church, of a religious science church in Phoenix, which is where I am. And that was in about 1995 that I did that. And just to put a finishing touch on that, because I said the reason I went on that path was for relationships, right? All right. maybe a year or so after that journey began, I met the love of my life. And the love of my life, the best human on the planet and man on the planet, my perfect partner. So it worked.
That's amazing. I love that inspirational story for all of us who also went on that type of journey. And I wasn't too far behind you. I found Unity in like 1997.
Oh.
So about the same time that you were, I guess, becoming the minister. Is that what you said in 95?
Yeah. About 95 is when I became the minister. Yep. So yeah, we're very close.
Yeah. And I like everything you said is exactly almost, I mean, aside from becoming a minister, but as far as the sentiments, I went on a personal discovery journey, and Unity was the home that I needed because I came from a fundamental background too. So I could totally relate. And I'm sure our audience can totally relate for those who know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So so I love that you met the love of your life. That's awesome.
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
So, so that's your introduction. So can you give us a little bit about where that's led you? Okay. So you became a minister, and then that was your new kind of a role, right, in the world. So tell us a little bit about that, like what that's like. Cause I know you told me you weren't with a church right now. And so we'll move into where you are now, but let's hear a little bit about your ministry.
Sure. So I was the minister of one church. I've only had one church in my whole ministerial career. I was there for almost 22 years. And I mean, it was, so to be completely transparent and honest with you, Lydia, and everyone who's watching this, it was both equally the greatest, most amazing experience I've ever had in my life, and also the most difficult.
I knew that was coming. I want to just say I honor anyone who dedicates their life to a church or ministry. It is 24/7 nonstop. You don't ever stop being a minister when you have a church, right?
That's correct. That's correct. You don't. And the thing that people, I think, don't realize perhaps about ministry is that, you know, the minister's role is to be a spiritual leader of that church, and, you know, the spiritual inspiration, of course, speaking on Sunday mornings, and religious science is very much of a teaching religion or philosophy. So we did lots of classes. I taught lots of classes. I created classes. I love doing that. That's the spiritual side. And people tend to think, well, that's all a minister does. Oh no. Church is also a business. And unless you're a mega church with, you know, staff to handle the business, it's the senior minister that handles the business. So there's an interesting balance of the spiritual side, the nurturing side, the care of the congregation side, which is just delicious and beautiful and lovely. And then there's the, offerings were low this Sunday. How are we going to make payroll? Question.
The stress,
right?
The stress,
and of course, I come from, and you do too, with Unity, my religious science is, you know, I believe at the core of my being, we live in an abundant universe, an infinitely abundant universe. And sometimes balancing that belief with the checkbook that looks kind of empty. I don't know if any of you ever have that experience,
right, or the offering plate.
Right. It's an interesting balance. And so that's the dance. So ministry was amazing and challenging. I grew in ways I never thought I would. I expanded who I am over the years, and it was a gift. And my husband, Lonnie, was such a part of it. He was just like my rock, my foundation. He created the home space. He had his own full-time job, but he like created the nest so I could give 24/7 to ministry. And, you know, we did that together for 22 years.
That's amazing. And it is a together, right?
It was completely.
It's definitely together with your partner. I know the church that I spent the majority of my time with, the minister was a man, and his wife was the support. And boy, I mean, she gave herself as if she was her own minister. So I understand the dedication that requires of both parties, right? The support behind the person on the pulpit, right?
Yes. Yes.
So, okay. So now you did that for 20 years, right? 22 years. And then where did you go from there? Like what's next after having your own church?
Right. Well, let me just back up and just say why I stepped down. Because that's the sad part of my story. But so I stepped down in October of 2018, and I left because I couldn't do it anymore without my partner because he passed away.
Oh, that is sad. I'm sorry.
It will be actually 5 years ago this May that he passed away. And so in May of 18, he passed. And I did my absolute best to carry on. I mean, after I took at least a month and a half off through his illness and passing. But then I came back and I just realized, Lydia, I believe in being authentic and real and vulnerable and listening to what's going on inside. And as I did that for myself, got authentic and real with myself, I went, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, it's not the same, right?
It's not the same. I don't want to do this anymore, right? So that was a tough decision. I mean, that took a lot of prayerful thoughts and bravery to step down because I loved that congregation. I mean, I loved it and I loved the people. And they had just gone through a huge loss with his passing. And I thought, I can't now leave them. How selfish is that? That was all, going on in my head. But I knew to be authentic and true to myself, which really was then going to be authentic and true to them, I couldn't be there.
Yeah.
So I left in October of that year. I know they say don't make big decisions for a year after a major situation, but yeah, I don't always follow the rules. So I did that, 5-6 months after he passed, I stepped down.
Yeah. And I know that a lot of times in our personal evolution, as we both probably agree that our lives here on earth are all about decisions towards our evolutionary path and journey. And sometimes things happen because your next step is supposed to be something that's a transition. It's not supposed to stay 40 years as the minister, so you're just listening to your inner knowing of where you're supposed to be next, and I'm sure we're going to hear where that is.
Yes. Perfect segue.
Yeah.
So before I left the church, and before I knew I would even be leaving, a couple of years before, I became trained in a modality called the art of feminine presence.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. And I loved it. And it was consistent with everything I knew, spiritually and everything I taught. It was so consistent and yet added some dimensions to it that I had not yet explored. So I became certified as a trainer in that. And I started kind of doing simultaneously with church, some one-on-one coaching with women in that work and even offering some classes. And I loved it. I loved it. And so for a while, for like the last year, let's say, of my ministry, I was doing that over here and ministry over here, which ministry is a full-time job. So then adding something else was not a sustainable thing. I know that I couldn't have sustained that. But as my husband got ill, and we knew he was going to be leaving us, we just weren't sure when. He said to me one day, he said, I am so glad that you found we call it AFP, Art of Feminine Presence. He said, I'm so glad you found AFP. He said, I think personally for you, it's going to help you go through this journey. And it did. It gave me some strength that I would not have had otherwise. And he said, not only personally for you, but for professionally. He said, I just see something really happening with this for you. Like, okay, I like that. So when he passed and then I decided to leave the church, that's what I started doing. I started teaching that full time. And the good news for me, I feel very blessed, is that I kind of had a built-in mailing list already. I had people who I knew who weren't happy that I was leaving the church, who wanted to stay connected with me. And so I had a lot of women who are like, oh, what are you doing? And I want to do it with you. And so they started coming to my classes that I was teaching in my home. And Some started coaching with me. And so that has what's developed, and it's gone beyond just AFP now, way beyond. So for 5 years, I've been coaching and mentoring and classes and workshops and retreats and
That's
all
awesome.
sorts of amazing. And I'll tell you, Lydia, I am so fulfilled doing this. It's so much fun. I love the one-on-one work, and I love being, the only person I need to account to is me. I'm my board.
It's
I'm
freedom.
right. Such freedom to set my own schedule. Such freedom. I'm a church goer. Ever since I walked into that religious science church as a congregant, I like going to church. But, for 22 years, I had to go to church. So now I love the freedom to go or not go. Most of the times I choose to go, and I actually go to a Unity church now. I've started became a member of Unity of Phoenix here in Phoenix. But I love the freedom that this new life has given me, that I go to church. No, not today, but yes, today. I want to have a client. Don't want to have clients on those days, I'll just block my calendar off, and then they can't book it, So I love the freedom that I have personally. The work that I do is so empowering to me and then to the people I work with.
It really is like the definition of joy, right? To be able to create freedom in your life, to have success, whether that's with your clients or just in your personal definition of success, right? Because what you've achieved so far feels like your level of success, and to be enjoying it. I mean, that is like the definition of joy, and we're all seeking to create joy in our lives. And it sounds like you've created it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I often have people, especially people who know Lonnie, knew us, know he's passed. They see me after a time. Maybe they haven't seen me for a while. They'll always ask me this question: how are you? How are you? With a little bit of sadness, how are you? And I always have to pause with that and really, I want to be honest, but I feel a little guilty. That's not the right word. I don't really do guilt, but I say, and it's true, my life is not unfolding like I thought it would. I expected to be with Lonnie, and actually, he and I said, we are going to go out in a puff of smoke when we're in 95 after having made mad, passionate love to each other. That's what we said. And in a puff of smoke, we both leave. That was the plan.
That's a good goal.
That was a good goal, wasn't it? That didn't quite happen, right? That didn't happen. But I had almost 30 years of absolute joy and bliss with him.
Oh my God. I mean, you could do talks just about that, like waiting for the blissful relationship, right?
Yeah. Just this weekend, I taught an intensive on a couples retreat intensive this weekend on what we learned and how we did it.
Yeah.
What I say is, my life is not like I anticipated it being, expected it to be, but it is really, really good. Do I miss him? Absolutely. Yes. And if he were still here, I would still be at church. I would not be doing this that I'm doing now. And I love this. So it's
you wouldn't have known what you were missing, right?
Because doing the work, like I said, I was doing full-time ministry, and then I'm trying to develop some coaching. That wasn't sustainable. I would have let the coaching go. It would have gone bye-bye. So I could have focused on the church. And I was really ready to leave the church. So life really does, even when we don't think it does, it really does unfold for our highest good.
It does. And I want to share that in what you're saying, because you just made that comment, like, I know you caught yourself, but you kind of said, like, well, I kind of feel guilty for letting these people know I'm actually enjoying my life again, and I think that's natural. I think we all feel that. I mean, I had a very great tragedy when I was 21. And what I want to, through the 30 years that I've been working on thriving instead of being just a survivor, I want to teach people it's okay to have joy after tragedy. It's okay. It's like, that's what the person who loves you would want for you. If you're living, they want you to live with joy. They want to see you happy. And I think they still can see and are connected with you, even though they're not in our physical, right?
Absolutely. 100%. Yes.
Yeah, so totally. And so I know you know that. I'm just reminding you that this is what we normally think is somehow I can't be too joyful because somebody might misinterpret it.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So I do have a question that I didn't know I wanted to ask you because I didn't know you did that. Can you tell us what ATP, what do you call it? AFP was?
Oh, the Art of Feminine Presence?
Yeah, I want to know what that is, and so does my audience.
All right. So it's actually a system, I guess we'll call it, of thought that I did not create. I wish I had. It was developed by a woman by the name of Rachel Jane Groover. You can look her up, Rachel Jane Groover. And over her history, and I won't go into the details, but she kind of came to this idea, and this is for women, although frankly everything translates to men as well, but her first focus was women, is that the women who are making a difference in the world and sharing their gifts in the greatest way and making an impact have some qualities about them, some specific qualities. What are they and how do you get them? And that's what she explored for a long time for herself, because she was a singer, still is, and she would notice how she was no less talented than Sally over there, but Sally was getting all the gigs. What's the difference? and it boiled down to this thing called presence. What kind of presence are you bringing to it? And so she developed over time 44 different practices that we can do to help enhance, expand, deepen our presence.
That's beautiful.
And when you do that, there's confidence. There's confidence. There's an ability to speak out, but also be tender, to be strong, but soft, to be clear and direct, but also kind. I mean, it's a beautiful way to live. And I never thought, Lydia, when I first heard this woman speak, I'm like, feminine, I'm feminine. Look, I mean, I have nails and eyelashes and all that, but that's not what it means. So the organization is called the Affiliated New Thought Network, or shortened ANTN, A-N-T-N, ANTN. And I became a member of ANTN when I started in the ministry at my church. So I have been a member of ANTN for 25, 6, 7, I don't even know how many years.
Wow.
I love the organization. It is this beautiful umbrella organization for churches, ministers, lay people, anybody who believes and follows new thought. So a year ago, I was on the board of this organization, and the board decided that it wanted to hire an executive director. We had one many years ago, but didn't have one anymore. And so it was time. It was like, time, if we're going to expand and up level us a bit, we want an executive director. And when the board, and I was on the board, and I like, yes, I vote for that. And then I said, I would love to throw my hat in the ring to be it. So I did not have a vote on that. I abstained from the vote on that one, but the board voted me to take that position. So I got off the board, and now I am the part-time executive director for this beautiful, beautiful organization.
Yes, with a lot of beautiful members, right?
Yes.
Can you just give us an idea of the type of... Yeah, well, I'm new to it. I just found it, but give us an idea of the wide span of types of people that you can think of that are actually members. Most of them are ministers, I guess.
Well, historically, it was pretty much all ministers of churches, historically. But that is not who we are anymore. So there are ministers of churches. There are ministers who don't have churches anymore. There are people who have no desire whatsoever to be a minister, right? Don't want to do that, but who follow New Thought teachings, who believe in, the power of our thought and all the beautiful principles that we teach, who believe that. So we have, people like you. We have a beautiful man who runs New Thought Media Network. We have I'm going to call lay people who they're not necessarily doing things like you are, like he is in the world, but they just love these practices, and they love this organization because we have an amazing retreat every year, live retreat. And then we do lots of workshops, virtual workshops, and virtual times to connect. So there's just all sorts of things for all levels of people in terms of what you're doing.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you used to go, or you were a minister of the religious science. And then, of course, we've talked about unity. What other religions or organizations are there that kind of fit into that New Thought movement?
Well, if we just want to talk denomination, there's unity, there's religious science, and there's divine science. Those are the three.
Isn't there something called science of mind, or has that changed?
Religious science and science of mind are the same thing.
Okay.
They're the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So those are the three. But then there are a lot of people who don't, actually there are churches that don't consider themselves any of those, but that teach the principles. So they're a New Thought church.
Yeah.
And a lot of people who practice these beliefs that don't even go to a church necessarily. So you don't have to even go to church to be a part of this beautiful organization.
And it's like a community, right? I mean, you're basically part of a community network. So
it is.
Yes. And I look forward to getting to know, since I'm new to it, I look forward to getting to know different members over time, as we spend more time. I was so lucky because I came in when y'all did that. What did you call that? A town hall?
Town hall.
Where it was like a whole day where you had like different people interacting on the Zoom, and we could get to know people better. So I felt so lucky that I was available to actually get on that and meet you. That's how I saw you and reached out to you.
Yep. What drew you to that? How did you find that? I'm curious.
It was so funny because I was coming up with like a domain name for like what I wanted to share about joy. And I can't remember what the domain name was that I typed in. I mean, I was searching like, does anybody have journey to joy or joyful journey or whatever? Like I was typing in domain names and seeing if somebody owned it and if a website popped up. And it was something with the word joy in it. And so that was like somebody's new, like, I think they were part of the Anton because they had a little Anton button on the bottom of their website. And I was like, what is ANTN or, whatever the acronym is. And I clicked on it and it opened up the Anton website. And I was like, jackpot, what the heck? I was so excited because I hadn't heard about it any other way. I never heard about it. My minister from before was in something called, I want to say Global New Thought or something like that.
Association for Global New Thought.
Yeah, that. He was in that. And so because I did marketing for the church, I used to have to promote stuff they were doing. So I remember that acronym, but I've never seen this one. So this is... was new for me, and I'm happy to find it because it's probably more my speed. That might be, I don't know what that is, but I'm sure it's like maybe a bigger network or something. I'll start with the US. Oh, actually, it's not just US based, right? You have people all over the world.
I love this. We have a brand new member who lives in Switzerland.
I just found out Tina Turner lives in Switzerland.
Oh, well, we got to get her then, don't we?
And I was thinking, wow, that must be a really neat place to live, in Switzerland, because it's just so beautiful. Can you imagine? Oh my gosh.
Yes.
So, okay. Yes. So what do we need to cover that we haven't covered about Reverend Dr. Michelle Whittington?
Gosh, yeah.
Hey, what do you have coming up? Do you have any classes, or how can people work with you if they love what you're about?
Yeah. Well, the best thing to do would be to go to my websites because everything is on there and ways to connect with me. And so it is My business is name is Unleash Your Life. So my website is unleashyourlife.us. Unleashyourlife.us.
I'm actually going to go to it and pull it up on the thing. Watch, I can add it, I think. Let me see how I can add that. I think I can add your website. I haven't done this very often. Screen share. 1 second.
Sure.
Let's go to, how come it's not showing up? 1 second. Why is it not? Okay, I thought this was going to be easy. I thought I was going to do this seamlessly. Why isn't that showing? Okay, let's see. Screen share. Wanted to pull it up. Okay, it's not showing me. Is that you? Nope, that's not it. Okay, I thought I could pull it up, but I'm not pulling it up. So that's not going to happen.
Listeners, you pull it up right now.
Yeah, unleashyourlife.us.
Yep.
Why is that? That's so weird. I did that the other day. Let me see. Maybe I closed that window. One more chance. Let's see. This is video. This is a video. So let's see if I can do this. I did it with a bike. Oh, there it showed up. Here we go. All right. So that's a screen share, but I can also pull us in. 1 second. Look, see, there we are on the side.
Yes, that's it. Yeah. So if you click on services.
Okay.
But there you go. Classes.
Whoa, look at you. Look what all you're doing.
Look at all that.
So, I'm curious personally about your private coaching. So I love the feminine work that you're doing. And oh my God, I love what you said, what that was about, because I agree. There are certain characteristics about powerful, amazing women that are getting it done, making it happen, making their impact in the world. And there, there were some things you listed that I was like, okay, I have that. And I was like, I could work on that. Like the part where you said being, delivering clear and concise communication and being kind doing it. There's always those little like tweaks that you can be better at something, right?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And I think as long as we're here, meaning in this earth, on this earth plane, in this earth suit, we're here to grow and to learn and to tweak and to expand, tweak in a good way. Right?
I'll be tweaking my whole life long. I just know it's a constant tweak, right? Like we are not perfect. I'm definitely not perfect. And I got a lot to work on, That's what this life is meant for.
That's exactly what this life is meant for. Yes.
And that's why we need guides and helpers, along the way. Because I tell you, it's not that fun. I love collaboration. It's not that fun doing it alone. You can do it alone, but it's a little bit more fun having someone you trust to have be a mirror and be helpful in seeing things that maybe you haven't seen on your own, right?
That's why they're called blind spots. They're called blind spots because we can't see them, but someone else can.
That's funny. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so good. I have to say that to my sister. We're always working on things together and have given each other permission to, share when we see an opportunity for growth.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Having people like that in your life is important, right? Yeah. Good. So is there anything, I know you have a client right after this, so we don't want you to be late. Yes. So is there anything that you want to share in wrapping up your episode on the Oneness Junkie podcast?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me here. It's been a joy. It's been a joy to get to know you. I feel like now we're friends, and I love that.
Absolutely.
I guess I would say about Anton specifically that, check that out. If listeners, if you are looking for a community of if you resonate with what we've talked about, and if you would like a community of like-minded people, antn.org is the website, and there's just lots of juicy stuff on there, and come check us out. We offer lots of free stuff. You can just see what we're like. So do that. And then in terms of my own personal work, I love, as I've already said, working one-on-one with people. So if anything in this piqued your interest, they're on my website. There's a place to book a complimentary session. We just spend 20 minutes kind of exploring what you're wanting to do and if I could help you. And I will tell you if I don't think I can.
Exactly.
I
That's so
absolutely
important.
will. Yeah, I
Yeah.
absolutely will. So yeah, that's, I think, what I would say in conclusion.
And I'll just say this, coaching is a two-way street in the sense that the coach needs to be able to know that they can work with the participant who's asking, right? So it goes both ways. So there's a discovery call that has to be made. If you can't help someone, they need to find the right person, right? I agree. So yes, regarding Anton, I know there's a lot of people who have, like you, gone into the ministry because they've had some experience that has kind of led them into that position. And then anyone who's dedicating their lives to a ministry or any kind of work like this, it's serving others. And I hope to have more people that I can highlight from Anton so that whoever's listening to the podcast can get an idea of what it would be like to be in the Anton community with the wonderful people that are part of that community. So it'll be great. I'm glad you were here to kind of kick that off. And I think it's a great way to highlight Anton so that the membership can grow. And the other thing I was going to mention is, this podcast is on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Google, all the little tiny podcast apps, and then of course on YouTube. So it's a global expansion. I know I've had people contact me from Poland who listen to the podcast. And so the cool thing about your work is you can work with anyone as long as they have internet, right? Because that's where you do your coaching. So anybody who has internet access and wants to be on Michelle's time zone with her schedule, she's not going to get up at 3 a.m. and be on your schedule.
I do a lot for my clients, so you never know.
Wow. Anyway, let's manifest all within a good night's sleep.
All right. I like that.
Yeah. So I just want to put that out there because the internet allows us to have access to people all over the world. In fact, I have another podcast and I'm going to be interviewing the Manda Panda in Bali, Indonesia. It's the Ritz-Carlton in Bali. And everyone who stays there gets their own temple to sleep in. So I'm so excited about interviewing that. And that's on I have a global travel podcast. So anyway, I'm just saying you can interview and talk to people anywhere. So
yes.
Michelle's available, and I'm sure it's going to be a delight to work with you. So thank you so much, Michelle, and I wish you the best, and we'll be in touch, right? We're in that group together.
Yes.
All right. Bye. Take care.
Bye.
We've reached the end of this episode. If you'd like to continue with this inspirational journey, be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss out. If you are a self-proclaimed oneness junkie, get yourself a t-shirt and spread the message of oneness in your community. And finally, if you have a story to share or know someone that should be a guest on this podcast, contact us at onenessjunkie.com. See you next time. And remember, when we heal ourselves, we heal the world. Compassion starts with you and me.